Hello everybody, happy Monday. We are going live today with Michali to answer a question that was asked on the AMA. We're just going to wait for some of you to show up and for Michali, of course. Hey Michali, let me invite you. Hey Michali, let me move my... I can see you. Okay. I just have to make sure that
can you see me okay?
Like me, except for my not just my chin, my nose. 1 second. Amazing.
I see a shirt.
Coming out. Amazing. Okay. So a very good question was asked about therapy this week because of money, and I figured that was like on a lot of people's minds. And then I actually got some like DMs that said, "I had this question too. I had this question too."
Yeah.
So I'm excited that we're going to be addressing it.
I love this question. It comes up in my therapy room all the time, and so I'm so happy to answer this question.
Can you say?
Do you want to share your thoughts first?
Can you say what you were just
saying?
Can
you hear me?
Because I got a call and I had to your...
Oh, yeah, sure. I said I love this question because this comes up all the time in my therapy room with my clients. Amazing. And I think it's just a really great
were your initial
question.
Thoughts, like?
So I'm excited. So I am a big believer in that there are many ways to heal and that therapy is not the only way. I think that if you are committed to the therapeutic process and you're in the middle of something hard, it's really important that you ask yourself, why do I want to take a break? Is it that for this week? Is it that it's too scary or too hard? Is there something that I can discuss with my therapist that isn't as intense? Like I would basically ask myself, is it healthy to skip or is it not healthy to skip? And what's the ultimate way to take care of myself, right? So one thing that I tell my clients is that sometimes getting a massage can be more healing in your week and more self-care than a therapy session. And so if you have a choice between, these days therapy is increasingly expensive, so especially without insurance. So if it's a choice between spending, let's say, $250 on a therapy session or getting a $150 massage plus a nice salad from a cafe, and then you're still not at $250, right? And that just feels like the ultimate self-care for you that week. Based on your week, then go for it, right? It's really about what you feel is good for you, and you want to really be honest with yourself, what you do think is good for you and why you think it's good for you.
People are always surprised when they hear me say that, like a similar sentiment, that therapy is not like the be-all and end-all of healing. Like, I think it's like one part of healing, one piece of healing, one tool that not everybody needs to use, and at different times in your life, it can be more or less helpful. But there are so many other ways to heal, and like, if therapy is not working for you right now for whatever reason, and from now many people might be the finance reason, that's okay too, pending it's okay for you, meaning you know yourself best. And like, is therapy, I guess a good question you could ask yourself is like, is therapy a luxury at this point? And then do I have a limited funds for luxuries, and then I want to spend my luxuries or like in different ways? Or is it a necessity, and is it a mental health need or a medical need or a health need? And then it falls into a totally different category where I would say like, yeah, you might enjoy your massage more, but this is probably like a doctor's appointment that you cannot skip or should not skip.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I think that I think there are times when therapy is amazing and it can be more of a luxury, especially again if you go to someone who doesn't take insurance. But I think that there are times where it's like it doesn't matter how much the treatment costs. What matters is your life, right? Like if God forbid someone was dealing with a medical emergency, you don't care, where you're at necessarily financially. I mean, it's a concern, but you're just trying to save this person's life and get them, better and healed. And so there are certain situations from a mental health perspective that fall under those categories. So I love that you said that. Someone just wrote a question. How do you know if a relationship isn't for you?
I don't think it's so connected to what we're discussing.
Oh yeah, versus difficult things come up via triggers and are an opportunity for you. Yeah, so it's a different question. I think it's a really great question, but maybe we would address that at another time.
Yeah. Thank
But
you.
thank you so much for asking
So
my
I'm thinking,
question.
yeah, I think that a good, like, what do you say that a good question for this questioner or anyone else going through this to ask themselves is this a luxury for me right now? And is it a luxury that I could afford without like a repercussion? Or is it something that it's a luxury that I don't need this minute, you know? I'm curious how like therapists will deal with this. You know, I wonder if people will be putting therapy on hold or saying like I want to come every other week. I mean, I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. I wouldn't say like if you're choosing to cancel because of money, I would recommend like having a session prior to that decision and figuring out like what's the best way to navigate that, because it's also a relationship. It's not just a transaction. So you want to make sure that you're communicating it.
Yes. Yeah. And treatment
Exactly.
works best when you show up consistently. So I think that it, there's, I mean, this person's question was more
Mm,
about, it sounds like skipping just for the week. It's a totally different conversation if someone's thinking of changing how they're going to therapy generally. So if it's in general, they're going to go once a month as opposed to once a week, then I would agree
mm,
with you that warrants a conversation with your therapist
mm.
and with yourself, most importantly, right? Like, what do you feel like you're stable? Do you feel like you have the tools that you need to address some of
Exactly.
the issues that brought you into therapy to begin with? I say this all the time with couples work, that the best time to go to couples therapy isn't when you're struggling, but when you're actually doing well and you have the openness in your mind and the creativity and the connection and security in the relationship to really think about, some of the
Yeah.
more critical parts of the relationship. So do you want to, make that process longer by skipping every other week or whatever? Those are questions to ask yourself and your therapist. But I think that's going to be different than skipping for 1 week, because you're recognizing that you can do better self-care by skipping, or you simply can't afford it. And then you also have a plan in place for how you're going to take care of
Exactly.
yourself,
Exactly.
not
Yeah,
just
and
your
I like
finances,
I didn't
you
understand it
know?
as like skipping 1 week because I feel like let's say it's $250, like that one time skip is not that like that $250, which is let's say a higher end fee, is not going to like solve your financial issue like issues in a sense, right? So like, how is that like part of your long-term strategy? Unless
Right.
it's like I'm doing well right now, I really want this other luxury in my life that will cost something similar or less for this week, and I feel like it will better serve my long-term self-care or my short-term self-care, and I'm prioritizing that, and then that's like a decision to be made. But like we said, if it's something more long-term that you're looking to like change the dynamic in the therapy relationship because of finances, whether that's stopping, taking a break, or going less frequently, that should be a conversation that's had, and you really a conversation with yourself and with your pro, because you want to make sure that you're not, shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing that I would add is that, let's say, a person can't make their credit card bill, and that 250 would really enable
Sure.
them to be financially responsible. So even if you're making that choice for that month or that week, um, it's really important that you also think about and prioritize your own needs, right? So for example, if I'm just making up a random example, but if, like, Wednesdays are really hard for you in general because of how your schedule is, or certain things with work or whatever, and then you usually have therapy on Thursdays, right? So, and you can't make it to that therapy session, what are you going to do during that time to nurture yourself that doesn't cost money, right? It can be coloring or painting or listening to music or taking a bubble bath or calling a friend that is healthy. Just there are things that you can access that are still going to take care of you. Um, so I think that that's the other piece that I
Yes.
would I would try to, like, remember and to keep in
Exactly,
mind, even
exactly. And
if
that
I'm
boiled it down to like a
sacrificing
very
my
down to
therapy
earth example,
session.
which I didn't think of, which is like, yes, if it's a matter of like being financially responsible, for the month and crunching numbers versus, just going with the flow and incurring debt like that, and you have to make that choice. And that even if it's like a one-off choice, that should be a choice that you make, but be responsible, like be emotionally responsible to yourself. Use other tools because other tools are so
Yeah,
handy. I love that. Yes.
it doesn't have to be an
Exactly,
either or,
exactly. All
even in
right,
that
amazing. Thank you,
situation.
Michali. Thanks for addressing this.
Yeah. Thank you,
I will see you
Sai.
again
So
next week.
nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
I'll
Happy
see you
Thanksgiving,
next week.
everybody.
Happy
Maybe I'll be back
Thanksgiving.
on the gram like in a live or something before then, but I'm not even sure. So if not, happy Thanksgiving live. And yeah, we'll be in touch. Take care. Take care. Bye bye.
We will be in touch. Bye.